Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Around Cranberry Township. I'm Dr. Bulow with Revive Upper Cervical Chiropractic. And today we're hanging out with Chris. And Chris runs Tricycle Learning Company. And Chris, we just met, what was it, a month ago about? We met at a community function. And, raising 3 kids of my own, I heard that Chris could help people get into college and prep for college and help them with their tutoring and education. And I won't say more about it. I'll let him say that. But it really engaged me, And so then I called you the other day and I said, man, we have got to do an interview. I've got to introduce you to the community. And Chris is new to the community too. So we got a lot to talk about.
That's right.
So say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So for those of you that don't know Chris, how would you introduce yourself as yourself, but also with Tricycle Learning?
All right, so let's go over my family rules. So I'm recently married.
Cool, congratulations.
So shout out to Pinky if you're out there.
That's right.
And also my sister, she's a big part of the chamber. And that's how I met a lot of the business connections.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
When did you get married?
I got married September of 2017.
Right. You gotta get that one right. So September last year.
Yeah.
And then when did you move to this region? Because you recently moved here, right?
Yeah, I moved to Pittsburgh in February of this year. So
Very
just got here.
A busy year. A busy year.
A good year, yeah.
So introduce everyone to Tricycle Learning Company. How did you get into that? And then we'll circle back around, talk community stuff, and yeah.
All right, so Tricycle Learning Company, that's we are an SAT, ACT college prep company. So we help students get back to basics, which means we help them with their testing. We also get them understanding what their futures entail. Like, are they going to go to college? Are they going to go to vocational school? And teaching them that whatever route they're picking is going to be okay.
Yeah. And I'm just assuming there's a lot of anxiety around SATs and ACTs and college prep. Is that kind of, where do you feel, where should most people integrate? You know what I mean? When should a parent be like, you know what, it's time to get ready for college and give Chris a call? You know what I mean? What's the right time?
Most families are gonna, they come to me stressed out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of times that's either because they don't know what to do, or they have an idea of what to do, and they're starting to freak out about their students succeeding.
Sure.
And that's the term, is success. That seems to be the word that gets students stressed out.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they're feeling anxious, it usually means that they don't know what to do, or they're not sure of what the time is to do that. So
when they come into you and they're stressed out, what grade are they normally in?
Right.
And then is that an okay time, or should they have come in a little sooner?
Right. As an SAT professional, I have students coming in probably either 8th grade, 9th grade, but I don't think students should really worry about the SAT or college or success and all that until maybe after their junior year.
After the junior year?
Yeah,
really?
right,
Going into the senior year?
Yeah,
Senior?
I mean, I think the number one thing is going to be the GPA. The reason I say that is schools are going to look at a student on some certain factors. So one would be the GPA, one is the SAT score, and then the extracurricular activities.
Got it.
Right. The SAT score, that can increase up until senior year. You can take tests until then, but for all students, you're only going to have one sophomore year. You're only going to have one junior year to make that GPA count. So,
and when does the GPA count? Does it count from kindergarten on? Where does, you know what I mean?
Right. Colleges are going to be looking at specifically the sophomore and junior years.
Got it.
Because the freshman year, that's more of a transition year, and they're looking at they don't even get the senior year grades until after they've made the decision.
That's a great point.
So it's going to be sophomore and junior year.
And then the SATs, they can get that after the junior year and that sort of thing?
You can take the SAT anytime. I think if you are a junior at this point, then you still have 9 tests that you can take that colleges will accept. Up until December of their senior year.
Yeah.
So there's time with the SAT.
I hear you now.
And it's weird coming from an SAT professional, but you shouldn't have to worry about the SAT.
So it's more important that going into high school in your junior and sophomore and junior years, you just have good years, right? Just like good grades, good kind of extracurriculars,
right.
Like full, robust academic years. You kind of want to focus on those years are pretty important.
Yeah, it sounds sad that we have to say that, but we want students to be normal kids during high school, right?
Yeah.
I think the transition from high school to college is already tough,
Yeah.
but we've put so much expectation behind it that they're in the future already and not focusing on enjoying what they love studying, which is what colleges look at.
Oh, interesting.
And excelling in the classes that they're taking, which is another thing that they're looking at.
So unpack that a little bit. You were saying that what they love studying. So is it okay from a college's perspective if they see that someone is a right brain creative and they're struggling in their math grades, but they're doing excellent in these other grades? Or would they rather see a well-balanced? See, I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
That kind of question is perfect, and how I usually frame it with students and with families is, let's pretend that we're a college or a university, and we're looking at different students. Now, would we want to see just students with high GPAs? Is that all we're looking for? No. I think if we're a university, we want to have different perspectives and we want to have different strengths that in our students, because that's going to be our representation.
Yeah.
So
kind of rounds out the college landscape.
Exactly.
You got your chess club, and you got all the different, you math club, and you also have art, and you also have sports.
That's a big misconception, is they're looking for perfect students, but I think it's more we're looking for nice pieces for this bigger puzzle, and that's what a university is.
That's a great piece of awareness, because I mean, as we talked earlier, my kids are just entering middle school, and I'm already trying to figure it all out. But the reality is, it kind of reminds me of when I was in chiropractic college. One of my teachers, you'd have students that would raise their hand and say, like, do you know how much of the questions are going to come from chapter 1 versus chapter 2? Or they'd say, are these going to be fill-ins or multiple choice? Like, they were really trying to figure it all out.
To game it.
Totally game it. And he would say, yeah, probably all of them. Or he'd say, you'd probably good just to study it. You know what I mean? Just do a good job at what you do. You know what I mean? And I suppose if you overanalyze it, you probably get into trouble.
Because I get it. Students, our ultimate goal is to get the highest score possible. Yeah. Right. That's the idea.
That is the game of school. Yeah.
But students and families, I guess what happens is become fixated on a certain goal.
Interesting.
And that fixation on that goal is what inherently creates pressure.
Gotcha.
I mean, everyone knows that expectation is what breeds the sadness. It's what breeds the anxiety.
Terrible. Interesting. Yeah.
It's very zen.
Yeah. So in that case, one of the questions I usually ask people then would be, and that kind of, I think, is a good overview of the industry. It's fascinating, by the way. I really appreciate your insights there. But one of the questions I always ask people is like, so what's the ideal scenario then? Like, who's the ideal client? Because I'm sure people could plug in different areas. Like, if their kid's just struggling in math or struggling in English, like, do you guys do any kind of like tutoring as it comes to that, or is it the prep for the test specifically? Like, where does Tricycle Learning Center or company shine? Like, who's the ideal case that you'd be like, oh, good call for calling us up, you're going to do awesome?
All right, well, I had a student come in and he was actually asking for calculus help. So it's super high math, and I personally am not good at it, right? But again, that actually was a perfect candidate for who could come in. I taught him not how to technically do the calculus. It was more of unpacking the idea of what the question was asking for.
Yeah,
that's where the difficulty comes from.
Oh my gosh, isn't that right?
Right, and then so that turned into working with the SAT, which I believe is the bread and butter, so to speak, for the company, and that's overcoming that pressure, kind of like how coaches train athletes. And that's giving them certain steps that they can repeat, so that when they're feeling, what do I do here? It's more of, it's getting them out of that mentality and more of into a zone.
Yeah,
and we've all heard of that, in the zone.
Yeah.
And that usually comes from years and hours of training.
You're bringing it back, because that was, in school I got pretty much straight A's, and I like to think, I don't know if it's a positive or negative thing to say about myself. I would say, I'm just a really good test taker. It's like, well, I've got a good amount of knowledge in my head, but truly when you say that, it's bringing me back like, oh yeah. Like, I really, unpacking the question was always the hard but the fun part. It was like, what are they trying to get? Like,
Well, that's...
And the bad grades are when you fly through the question and you assume to know, but you didn't actually study. You spend more time on the answers than you do the question, and that's what gets you in trouble.
Perfect point. Is that the math section, so I've seen probably, I would say over 50 practice tests of math.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go above, the difficulty doesn't go above Algebra 2. In fact, I think most of the testing is basic arithmetic.
Yeah.
But the reason students get the problems wrong is they're looking at a question, they're like, wait.
Yeah,
What did I just read? Like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
And that's where the failure comes from, and that's where they start feeling like, oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm going to miss the next one, and that's where you spiral.
A vicious cycle.
Yeah,
gotcha. Absolutely. Well, you're new to the area. You've been here a little bit. What are some of the things that you found? I always kind of like this question, and then we'll come back to the business, kind of bouncing around a little bit.
Yeah.
But I always like to, I'm trying to ask more of this question, which is, have you found anything really cool that you like to do around Cranberry? Do you live around Cranberry? Do you live near the city?
I live Wexford,
got it.
so
Yeah,
right by the Market
Cranberry.
District.
Yeah.
So I haven't been here too long, but I've gotten
any favorite
a couple
spots
things.
or any?
Okay, so one is, I'll give a shout out if I can.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah.
So Stout Training.
Stout training.
It's like
I've heard of Stout Training.
It's right down the road, close to North Park Lounge, and that's where I train Muay Thai and MMA.
Nice.
So Rocky Long and Jonas Rubiano. Hey, what's
very
up, guys?
cool. Very cool. Yeah. Shout out to this. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I might get hurt if I go to that.
If you want to go and train, we have classes Monday through Thursday. That's I'm there at 7 a.m. So
nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And so my wife, she just got here a couple of days ago.
How about that? Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah. So we checked out Phipps Conservatory.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Really cool.
Yeah, Phipps is great.
The Christmas lights and
yes. For those of you that haven't been, Phipps around Christmas is phenomenal. All of the Carnegie museums are fantastic in Pittsburgh. The state parks next spring and fall, if you haven't been yet, but McConnell's Mills and Moraine are just north of Cranberry here, and they're beautiful. They're really, really nice.
Oh yeah.
There's some really nice pockets there. But
gone to some archery too.
That's right. Yeah. And turkey hunting, right?
Turkey hunting. Yeah, got some.
That's not easy. Didn't
get one this year. I got a pheasant.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. But
with archery, that's not easy. Okay, so rounding this out here, Chris, one of my favorite questions to ask, coming back to the learning and education with these kids, is what got you into it, but also equally and maybe even more important, what keeps you coming back to it, right? Like, so there's interesting pathways that bring us into our professions, and like I was talking to you earlier, for me it was like helping people without drugs and surgery. I just like that. I didn't like the idea of surgery. I had the analytical brain to be a surgeon, but I don't love blood and guts when I was a kid,
Right.
And I just didn't like the outlook of medication usage over a lifetime. So I was like, wanted to do something a little bit more natural. So that was like my in.
Right.
But everyone has a different in, what kind of brings them the on-ramp into what they do. But I think what's also really cool is what keeps you coming back, you know what I mean? What is the emotional payoff? Because when you run your own company, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of running, a lot of stress. But I'm very curious as to what your emotional payoff is when you're dealing with these kids. 'Cause I'm sure it's pretty cool. Nice. But any stories or any insights as to why you love doing what you do?
Okay. So before I started my own company about 6 years ago, I was working for another company, and it was SAT college prep, and they charged a lot of money. And as such, that's our industry.
Yeah.
I went to a school that I used to attend, and I told them about the classes that we had and how much it cost, and it was prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
and
tough.
the students told me that they couldn't afford it, and then that was my in.
Got
that
it.
was my.
Got it.
That was, I guess, the desire, the internal story that I'm telling myself is that, okay, so I'm going to represent and I'm going to fight for these kids.
Yeah. So
no matter where they're coming from, they're going to have the same opportunities that any kid can have, no matter what amount of money that they're paying. So the emotional payoff, what keeps me coming back is, I'm working with kids from Big Brothers Big Sisters over at Brashear High School.
Wow, awesome!
Right.
Oh, wow,
and so I got numbers that were. They were abysmal.
Yeah,
and it wasn't because these students, not because these students are underserved or anything. It's just because I asked them, how much effort did you put into it? They were like, close to nothing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my job then personally was to take that student and then give them a motivation, and then get them understanding that what they're doing here counts.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that it's gonna pay off for them one day, and that they're gonna come back and thank me.
That's pretty awesome. That's really awesome.
Right.
I mean, man, I think of like so many different things. Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher.
Okay.
He's a guy I listened to for a while, and I'll shout out to Eric Thomas, although he doesn't need it. He's international. But for those of you who may want to look into it, look into him. He came from inner city youth. He was homeless at 16. He went into working as a guidance counselor in college, and went into motivational speaking and empowering. And you hit on something so key there, which is like, it's not for not having the knowledge base. It's just the motive, just the direction, probably, with a lot of these kids. Just because everyone's got the potential, man. We've all got the potential.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We just have to wake that up and push it, and it's like you can do anything you set your mind to.
Right,
really,
yeah.
truly.
It sounds so corny.
It does, but it's so true.
But there's really that point. Like, and everyone wants to get better, and I know that. Like,
Yeah.
there's something inside us that wants to like improve something. And it's like, let's do it.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's really cool. I appreciate your time, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm gonna we'll round this out. We'll give you the last word. Before we do, I just have to thank Chris for his time. And if you guys have any questions, we're gonna be sharing this video. And as I always ask, for you to do the same. You never know who may need these kind of services, so please do share this video on your Facebook page. And if you have any questions at all, just throw them out in the comment section. I'm sure Chris will be able to come back and connect and answer those questions. I believe. Oh, you know what we need to do, Chris? I'm going to come back. We've got a giveaway from our last interview. We'll come back, watch the following video. We'll get that together. But otherwise, share this video, ask your questions with Chris. And Chris, any last words you want to say to the folks, and then we'll sign off.
Thank you for having me. If you guys need any help, have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Hi, Pinky.
That's right. Shout out to Pinky. Welcome to the area. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.